Now, we've talked about D-Day landing beaches before on this channel, and if you search YouTube you can find a lot of videos and a lot of information about them. But today we're at one of the beaches that you hear talked about an awful lot less. It is one of the British sector beaches, and today we're at Sword Beach. So today we're on Sword Beach. Sword Beach is one of the two main British landing beaches. This is the easternmost of the Normandy beaches, the left flank if you were looking at it from an Allies point of view as they were coming into land. Along the beaches here from west to east you had Utah, then Omaha, the main two American beaches, then Gold Beach, which was the other main British beach, then Juno, where the Canadians predominantly landed, and then right here to Sword Beach, where the British landed. Now, we've already talked about the role that the men taking Pegasus Bridge played in capturing that eastern flank. Well, they were doing that in order to protect the eastern flank right here at Sword Beach. This was going to be the end of the Allies landing in Normandy. And this is where the British landed, right here. Now, today we're going to walk the beach, we're going to talk about some of the spots you can see if you come here, and we're going to have a look around, because I think this is one of the less talked about beaches. So I wanted to take some time to walk, have a look, and show you guys some of what you can see if you take the time to come right here to Sword. Now, like all of the other landing beaches, the beach here was split into sections. Right down on the western end of Sword Beach you had Oboe, then Peter, then Queen, and then Roger. So where we are right here is roughly on the join between the Queen and Roger sectors. So this in front of us here was Queen Red, and over to this side here this is moving into the Roger Green sector. Down the far end we've got the rest of the Roger sector, and down here you have Queen, then Peter, then Oboe. So that's what you're looking at if you come here to Sword. Right, let's go and explore. Let's have a look around and see what we can see here at Sword Beach. So to start our look around Sword Beach, we've actually come all the way down to the eastern end. So we're right down at the end of the Roger sector of Sword Beach. Now, out here in front of us on the end of the beach was a substantial gun battery. This had to be taken out of action, and it was bombarded heavily by bombers prior to the landings, and also the naval bombardment here. But behind the beach here, if you have a little look between these two buildings, you can see a bit of a structure up there. Well, that is the observation bunker that was used for this gun battery. It's a huge, I believe like 5-story bunker, the Grand Bunker. And this is the first place that we're going to have a quick look at. So this is the huge bunker, the observation bunker for the gun position that was out there nearer to the beach. Now, on D-Day itself, the Franco-British commandos did approach this position, but they very quickly came under machine gun fire and also grenades being thrown from the top. It was realised that this was going to take a fair bit of time to capture a position like this. Now, with the gun battery itself being taken out of action by this stage, it was actually decided that they could bypass this and come back to it later due to more important objectives that had to be captured. For example, the commandos needed to move up towards Pegasus Bridge. It wasn't until later, on the 9th of June, when there was going to be an attempt to capture the bunker here. On the 9th of June, Lieutenant Bob Orrell and the Royal Engineers broke into this bunker. They ended up using explosives to take the main door right off its hinges, and it actually took them 4 hours to get into and then to capture this bunker. With that in mind, it's probably a good idea that they did bypass it on D-Day. Now, this bunker is actually in use today. It has been turned into a museum. This is the Grand Bunker Museum. We're not going to take a look in the museum today, but maybe you'll see it in the future. We're going to go and carry on exploring Summer Sword Beach. Now, one of the cool things about Sword Beach that a lot of people don't realise is that there were actually French commandos who landed here. So French soldiers who landed in France on D-Day. They were men of the Free French Forces, mostly men who had managed to escape France to England, joined up with the Free French Forces in England, and then were part of the invasion force landing here on D-Day. So Sword Beach is the only beach that had French troops land on it, and they were here as part of the French commandos. A lot of people don't realise that, think that the French troops landed on D-Day, and they did right here on Sword Beach. And so we've just come down a little bit further to the memorial. So we just came from the Grand Bunker, which was down this end of Sword Beach, with the gun position out here on the end of the beach. When you come a little bit further back west, we actually started a bit further west than this, but a little bit back west, you come here. So this is the memorial to the commandos, 6th of June 1944. Now, there are 177 of the French commandos who landed here on D-Day, and they were under the command of a man by the name of Commandant Kiefer, I think it is, Philippe Kiefer, and also here is the memorial to him. Philippe Kiefer landed here with the French commandos on Sword Beach. Now, also here by the monument, you have this statue here. Now, anyone who has seen the movie The Longest Day will be familiar with this man. This is Lord Lofford. He was in command of the British commandos who landed just near this spot on D-Day. Their objective was actually going to be to move inland and off the beach as quickly as possible, because their objective was to move further inland in this kind of direction towards Pegasus Bridge and meet up with the airborne who had captured that bridge. So their objective was to move inland and carry on as quickly as possible, leaving some of the other troops here on Sword Beach to deal with the remnants of the German defenders here in this area. Now, the other thing that's quite cool about this memorial is, perhaps befittingly, it's been built on top of a German viewing position here at the back of Sword Beach. Captured, defeated, and then the memorial built right on top. So we've just come a little bit further down the beach now. We have come to this. This was one of the German strong points on D-Day. This is WN-18, or Widerstandsnest 18. This held a 75mm gun, which would have looked out of this port right down the beach here. And you have to imagine this wouldn't have been here, so you can see the view that this would have had down the beach. And this gun emplacement was responsible for a lot of the casualties on Sword Beach on D-Day. So you can see where the gun emplacement would have been there. This has actually been turned into a more modern building now, so I'm not going to go and get too close to those people's windows. But like we've seen with other bunkers on the Normandy beaches, this defensive wall meant that it was shielded from out to sea, where the naval guns would have been firing in from. And there would have been other defensive points, I would imagine, possibly like a machine gun port or something, maybe mounted on the top. But you can see this is a substantial defensive structure that would have had a huge view right the way down Sword Beach. Now, I think it's worth us just touching on that point. We just talked about the fact that WN-18 was responsible for a lot of the casualties here on Sword Beach. And whilst we're talking about that, I thought it would be good just to address the point that there's often a perception that Sword Beach was an easy beach, a beach that was landed at without much trouble and without many casualties. Well, in fact, this was a heavily defended spot, Sword Beach. The beach itself was captured relatively quickly. The landings here started at 7:25 a.m. and by 8 a.m. the men were off the beach and moving inland. But there still was an awful lot of work to do. There were a lot of real strong positions behind Sword Beach. We've been to one of them before at Hillman, for example. Sword Beach was also going to have to deal with the only substantial German counterattack that came on D-Day, where the 21st Panzer Division counterattacked through this area towards Oostrum. So it wasn't as easy a beach as people often think. The casualties were not as high as somewhere like Omaha, but nonetheless there were nearly 700 casualties here on Sword Beach. It was not a walk in the park by any stretch of the imagination. So just opposite WN18 on the back of the beach here, we have the memorial to the commandos. A lot of the commandos would have landed in this area here with the objective of moving west down into Ustrom, which is just where we were by the Grand Bunker, just down the eastern end of the beach here. But this is the memorial to the commandos. Now we've moved back along the beach a little further west, actually to where we started. The Queen Red sector is just over here in front of us. And we have come here. Our next stop is going to be the Piper Bill Millin Memorial, the Bill Millin statue that is right here on Sword Beach. And there's quite a cool story that comes with Piper Bill Millin. William Millin, more commonly known as Piper Bill, was a Canadian musician, and he was the personal musician for Simon Fraser, Lord Lafayette. And when they landed here on Sword Beach, Bill Millin was with Lord Lafayette. So Bill Millin landed here on Sword Beach with Lord Lafayette. Now, the tradition of playing bagpipes in battle had been primarily used with the Scottish and Irish soldiers, and it had been restricted to rear areas by the English. However, when they landed here on Sword, Lord Lafayette asked Bill Millin to play the bagpipes, and supposedly Bill Millin mentioned the restriction to Lord Lafayette, to which his response was, well, you and I were both Scottish, so that doesn't apply. And then Bill Millin played the bagpipes as the men landed here at Sword Beach. Now, this is actually depicted in the movie The Longest Day, so if you've seen that movie, you might be familiar with Bill Millin, or maybe you're only just putting two and two together, but that piper who was depicted in the Longest Day movie, that is Piper Bill Millin. So Bill Millin moved up and down the shoreline here by the beach, playing his bagpipes as the men moved in. Now, the story has it that after the men had moved in and captured the beach, Bill Millin was talking to some of the captured German soldiers. And apparently one of the German snipers told him that the reason that they didn't shoot Bill Millin was they saw him walking up and down out here playing his bagpipes, and they assumed he was crazy. So they decided to give him the benefit of the doubt and did not shoot at him. I don't know if that's true, but supposedly that is the story. So we've just moved a little bit back from the beach. We're still pretty much in line with where we were at that Bill Millin statue, and we've just moved into the centre of Colville. Now, Colville, as it was called on D-Day, is now called Colville Montgomery. And that's because it's been renamed in honour of Monty Bernard Montgomery. And here in the centre of the town, they have the Monty statue. So Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery was in command of the 21st Army Group, consisting of all of the Allied ground forces participating in Operation Overlord, the invasion here at Normandy. And he actually landed just here near Colville on the 8th of June, so that's 2 days after D-Day. And here now in Colville, Montgomery, they have the Monty statue. Monty, Field Marshal Viscount Montgomery of Alaman, Commander-in-Chief, Allied Land Forces, Normandy, 1944. So there he is, Monty, in the middle of Colville. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, taking a look and a walk around Sword Beach. One of the less talked about Normandy landing beaches in my view, and there'll be people who disagree with me on that, but it is quite often, and quite rightly sometimes, you know, films like Saving Private Ryan have made those American sector beaches very, very popular, and a lot of people want to see those and hear about them. But that doesn't mean that the other beaches can't be popular. Even when it comes to the British beaches, a lot of people tend to go to Gold and to Arromanch and see the remains of the Mulberry Harbour there on the sands. But here you can come to Sword Beach and you can see some really cool things. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, having a look around and seeing what there is to see at Sword Beach. If you did enjoy it, do me a favour, hit the like button, think about subscribing if you're new to the channel. If you like what I do and you want to support me, you can do that via the links in the description. You can support me on Patreon, or you can buy me a coffee if you would rather just do a one-off donation to support. In the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to see you on the next video.